Probably have not heard about MACRA if you're not in the medical profession, but it's a law that was passed in 2015 and signed by Obama, and it was authored by Representative Burgess. And MACRA is Medicare Access and CHIPS Reauthorization Act, and it is a data collection and care rationing law. It will change the way your care is done in the future, and it will affect all of you. Nobody can get out of it. One of the things that you need to understand is that MACRA was passed under the guise of repealing another really bad law. And so using that desperate need by the medical profession to repeal that law, they were able to have MACRA be a vehicle for another law that was used like a replacement, and it's much worse. It strengthens Obamacare. It requires data collection of all patients, 100% data collection without your permission of all patients, and it doesn't matter what your insurance coverage is. It also grades physicians on a score of 0 to 100. All physicians get graded by the score determined by MACRA. There's 2,200 pages of rules governing this law. And it's going to be very hard for physicians to figure out how they're going to get scored. Those scores will be published publicly, and the scores determine how they're paid. So physicians will be competing against each other for pay. Yep. And it's going to be within a fixed system of points. So they get, some physicians will be punished with a cut, some physicians will be rewarded with a bonus, and some will be neutral. It's a fixed system. There's always going to be winners and losers. One of the ways that you get rewarded is by reporting 100% of all your patients' personal health information to the federal government, and that they will have full open access to your records. The physician is not allowed to protect your records. They will be disqualified if they try to block your data. Another way that the physician will be scored is on cost. So a physician gets good scores if they don't spend too much on your care. Yes. So if you think about that, what's the natural outcome of it? The physicians will prefer healthy patients. It's going to be harder for a physician to see a sick patient because that costs more. It's going to make their scores drop. And it doesn't take a lot of difference between one physician and the other before you have one that gets a bonus and one that gets a cut. Remember, every year physicians will get a cut, no matter who they are, if they're on the bottom end of that score, and it's a fixed system. You can't get out of it. So eventually, physicians that are being cut every year will be bankrupted or be forced out of practice. That is the underlying goal of this law, is to force private physicians out of practice and into a more corporatized system that's already in place and will grow. And that way, your care will be centralized, and there's more control. And I want to give you a real quick example of how some of the quality and cost control works. An ophthalmologist who's doing cataract surgeries will get rewarded if 80% of her cataract patients have an outcome of vision with 20/40 or better. So that sounds good, right? That sounds like a good reason to reward someone. However, what if you have a really complicated patient who has cataracts and is probably not going to get a 20/40 or better, but they're blind with their cataracts and they wouldn't mind 2100? That patient is going to give the ophthalmologist a bad score if she takes him. If she does surgery on that patient, she's guaranteed to get a bad score. So what do you think is going to happen? This kind of law is going to incentivize doctors not to take the difficult patients. The sicker ones are going to be pushed aside in preference for healthier patients. This is a bad law. Yep. I don't know how Representative Burgess has been so shielded from any kind of backlash from this. I can tell you that the law has been incremented slowly, and it's just now starting to take effect. And I know a lot of physicians that are hopping mad. I think he has plot armor. I mean, I don't know how else he escaped any kind of publicity on this, but the thing is, that law is in place. It's sunk its roots deep now. It's been in place since 2015. It's going to be very hard to get out of. I don't think that he needs to be in office anymore for another attempt at a repeal. I think he needs to retire and join his colleagues in this struggle that he created, and that's why I support Veronica Birkenstock for his office.
Do you have a website? Is there a website to get more information on this?
Yes. There is a lot of places to get information. You can go to the AAPS website.
Okay. Thank you much.
So that's a little bit eye-opening, and I just want to make sure you're crystal clear on the author of that bill. Can you all just tell me who it was? Congressman Burgess, right here in Tarrant County. So thankfully we have an alternative. Come on up, Veronica.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Page, for giving me that information. It's always better to get information from an expert. And I don't think I know everything, but I know about some things, and I know enough to always try to find an expert. I am running against Michael Burgess for U.S. Congress for District 26. I decided to do this many months ago when I found out that we did not have a voice on the Hill. We have a body, but not a voice. And I can give you some key examples. Our congressman in City 26 has missed 256 votes and counting. If we had missed 256 days of work, would we still be employed after 16 years? Not only that, in the last 45 days, he missed 3 very, very important votes. Those votes were, one was a slush fund. How many of you heard about the $17 million slush fund? Yeah. How many of you in favor of any kind of slush fund? If there's a slush fund vote going on, you need to be there to vote no against it, okay? We should be they should be subject to the same laws that we are. The next one was for, and I can give you all these House bill numbers, but basically what it meant was to be able to equip our border security with equipment to detect illegal drugs coming across the border. This was a funding mechanism to protect our border from illegal trade and illegal drugs. How many of you think we have an illegal problem at our borders? Burgess did not show up for that vote, so we didn't have a voice. If you don't show up, you don't have a voice, even though that's your job. The third one was, has anyone heard about Rocket Man? Okay? I like that name, I can pronounce it better. He didn't show up for the sanction bill, the sanction vote on that bill. So those are 3 very key issues. These are not votes where you vote on whether or not to take a break, or take a recess, or come back next week, or what have you. These are 3 key agenda item votes, things that this Tea Party stands for. And we only get one voice. I understand that Dr. Burgess sometimes tells you, well, you know, I have all this seniority and I have all these important jobs. Well, he's been there for 16 years. He's not part of leadership. He sits on 2 subcommittees. Have you heard of the Energy Committee? Did you know we ran out of gas during hurricane and we got 1 drop of rain? He sits on the Energy Committee. And FEMA office is actually in Denton. So no coordination, but you know where he was? He was in Puerto Rico at a picture moment. He ranks number 38 out of about 220 Republicans on the Hill. If you've been there for 16 years, and you've been at your job for 16 years, and you're not part of leadership now, how many more times do we have to send you back to be part of leadership? Have I ever been on the Hill? Just about as many times as he has. I've never been an elected member of Congress, but I have been on that Hill. I've been on that Hill for over 20 years, actually longer than he has. I've been fighting for small business rights in this country, and I continue to do that whether or not I'll ever be a representative or not. But I do believe that one day we will be there. We will have a strong conservative voice, a woman that will get things done. I'm very frustrated over the fact that for the entire, almost a whole year since January 20th, we've had the opportunity to make a real difference. The Republican Party had control in both House and Senate and the White House, and we wasted a whole year getting major agenda items. I thank God for people like Senator Cruz who did help get that tax reform across the bill. Yep. But Dr. Burgess was not leading member of that party either. If you will recall, he ran on the promise. He says, I will honor your pledge if you will send me back to repeal and replace Obamacare. There was not one bill that the House passed that had that in there. There was an insurance reform bill, but that was not a repeal bill. It was not the bill. They passed over 60-some times when they knew Obama would sign it, or wouldn't sign it. But they knew on January the 20th that President Trump would sign that repeal bill. And what did they do? They waited until March to even have it a markup, and then it wasn't that bill. Only until August did we have members of the Freedom Caucus that actually signed a discharge petition, which really had no light of day. Dr. Burgess is not a bad man. I think he was a good man. I think he was written some very bad laws. And the one that Dr. Page just talked about, you know where